Julie, you brought up a great point when you were talking about the Daystar stuff with Miss Lamb, and you were talking about the $100,000. A light was shined in there, and there was some level of transparency that you brought to it, and accountability kicked in. And what did she do? She did what she should have done in the first place.
Right?
So when a light's on, people are going to do the right things.
Right. Well, what initially happened, it was brought up, at least this is what Jonathan Lamb told us, that it was brought up at the board meeting. Daystar was run by Joni Lamb, one other, Tom Callender, who was a very, very good friend of Joni Lamb's, and then Jonathan Lamb, who was her son. And Jonathan happens to be a real upstanding guy. So when he saw things that he didn't agree with, he stood up. When he brought that up and said, wait, $100,000 on your honeymoon? Mom, like, you can't do this. Tom Callender voted, said, we'll gift that to Joni, that $100,000. So that's what happened behind the scenes till Jonathan came forward and told us about it. We were able to report it. And then she's like, oh, well, I paid it back. Well, I'm sure by the time we reported it, you did pay it back because you knew that we were going to ask you about it, because we did ask her about it. The donors, we are at a situation where people in the pews are more righteous than the people in the pulpits. Daystar, which is a TV network, Daystar was a church. According to the IRS, it was a church. Now, it's not a church, but that's the classification it got, and that's why it was able to not file 990s and nobody knew what was going on with the money.
People have always trusted Daystar. Many believed it was a safe place, a place where faith came first. But what happens when the person at the top is caught doing something very wrong? Let's talk about Joni Lamb. It started quietly. No one was really looking at the money. Daystar called itself a church for tax purposes, so they didn't have to file financial reports like other companies do. That meant no one knew what was really going on behind the scenes. Until something strange came to light. According to people close to the situation, there was a Daystar board meeting. Sitting at the table were three people: Joni Lamb, her close friend Tom Callender, and her son Jonathan Lamb. That's it. Three people running a multi-million-dollar Christian network. But what shocked everyone was what happened next. Jonathan, who many say is a good and honest man, noticed something that didn't seem right. He asked his mother, $100,000 on a honeymoon? Mom, you can't do that with Daystar money. You heard that right. Joni allegedly used $100,000 from Daystar, money given by donors, to fund a luxury honeymoon with Weiss. Instead of stopping it, Tom Callender reportedly said they should just gift the money to Joni, like it was no big deal. That might have been the end of it, if Jonathan hadn't spoken up. He told someone what happened. The story got out. And suddenly the spotlight was on Joni Lamb. And that's when the story took a turn. She claimed she paid the money back. But many people are asking, did she only return it because she got caught? Would anyone have known if Jonathan hadn't said something? This wasn't just a mistake. To many it looked like embezzlement, using ministry money for personal gain. And the donors? The people who gave their hard-earned money to Daystar? They were left stunned. People across the country started asking questions. Regular churchgoers. Longtime Daystar viewers. Even people who had donated for years. They wanted to know, where else did the money go? If Joni Lamb could quietly use $100,000 for a personal trip, how many other things were happening behind closed doors? And the most painful part? That money came from donations. It came from people who believed in the mission. People who gave out of faith. Some gave their last dollar believing it would help spread the gospel. But instead, it may have funded a luxury vacation. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust. It was about leadership. And it was about accountability. Joni had always preached about living with integrity. She talked about morals, family, and faith. But behind the cameras, behind the sermons, there was something else happening. Something that felt like betrayal. And here's where things got even more uncomfortable. Daystar didn't operate like most ministries. Because it was listed as a church for tax reasons, it didn't have to share financial reports. That meant for years, no one could see what was really happening with the books. Number 990 forms. No open accounting. No way for donors to track where their money was going. The IRS allowed them to stay hidden. And Joni? She had full control. She wasn't just a TV host. She was the head of it all, making decisions, signing checks, and reportedly using Daystar money however she wanted. And the board? It was just her, her son Jonathan, and her friend Tom. Think about that. A ministry worth hundreds of millions, controlled by three people. No outside eyes. No checks and balances. No one to say this is wrong, except for Jonathan. That's why his voice mattered. Jonathan saw something that didn't sit right with him. And he spoke up. Not because it was easy. Not because it was popular. But because he knew the truth had to come out. And when the truth came out, it hit hard. People started talking. Some supporters walked away. Others demanded answers. Joni said she paid the money back. But to many that wasn't enough. They asked, why did she take it in the first place? Why was it approved by the board? Why wasn't anyone watching the finances? Some even used the word embezzlement. Because if ministry money is used for personal reasons without approval from the people who gave it, isn't that exactly what it is? It wasn't just about the honeymoon anymore. It became about a pattern, a system, a leadership structure with no accountability. And more questions started bubbling up. If Joni used $100,000 without hesitation, were there other times? Other trips? Other personal expenses paid for with ministry funds? The sad truth is, we may never know. Because Daystar as a church doesn't have to open their books. But what we do know is this: when the light was finally shined into the dark, something was revealed that couldn't be ignored. Once the story got out, things started to change. People who used to defend Joni Lamb began to fall silent. The media picked up on it. Online blogs, Christian news sites, even former Daystar insiders, all started talking. The question was no longer just about the money. It was about trust. And that trust was breaking fast. For years, Joni had been seen as a strong, godly woman. She sat on the Daystar stage with her family, preaching love, forgiveness, and truth. But now, some people felt those words didn't match her actions. Supporters were torn. Some didn't want to believe it. Others were heartbroken. One woman said, "I gave to Daystar every month for 10 years. I thought I was giving to God's work. But now I don't know where my money went." People who had tithed faithfully, some on fixed incomes, felt used. And then came the online backlash. Videos started to appear on YouTube. Comments poured in on social media. Former fans began sharing their stories. Some said they had always felt something was off. Others just felt betrayed. But one thing became clear: people wanted answers. And they weren't getting them. Joni went quiet for a while. Daystar gave no official statement about the board meeting. There was no open apology. No explanation to donors. Just silence. And that silence spoke louder than words. Behind the scenes, many believed there was panic. The leadership didn't expect the story to spread. They thought it would go away quickly. But it didn't. Because this wasn't just a headline. This was personal. People had built their faith on this ministry. They had prayed with Joni, cried during her broadcast, trusted her family. And now they felt like the whole thing was a show, a well-dressed performance hiding something rotten underneath. More former employees began to whisper. Some hinted that the $100,000 wasn't the only questionable spending. There were talks of luxury clothes, expensive dinners, and private flights, all under the Daystar name. But again, without financial transparency, no one could prove it. That's what made everything worse. The secrecy. The structure of Daystar made it almost impossible to know the full truth. Because it was labeled a church, the IRS didn't require them to show their finances. No yearly reports. No donor transparency. Nothing. It was a perfect setup for power without accountability. And the one person who tried to shine a light on it? Jonathan Lamb. He spoke up even though it was his own mother. He knew the risk. But he chose truth over comfort. And many say he's the reason this ever came to light. Without Jonathan, the public may never have known. After the story broke, everyone waited for Joni Lamb to speak. Would she take full responsibility? Would she admit what happened and apologize? Or would she stay silent and hope the storm would pass? For a while there was nothing. Then finally Joni said she had paid the money back. But she didn't say much more than that. No details. No apology to the donors. No explanation of how it happened. And that's what hurt the most. To many people it felt like she didn't really care. This wasn't just a private mistake. This was ministry money. God's money. Money from single moms. Retired couples. Families trying to survive. All giving because they believed Daystar was doing something holy. But now it seemed like that money had been used for personal pleasure. A honeymoon. Luxury. Maybe even more. People began to leave. Viewership dropped. Donations slowed down. Some churches that once supported Daystar stopped promoting it. And once loyal fans said they felt embarrassed. Joni tried to move on. She kept appearing on TV, smiling, preaching, hosting shows like nothing happened. But behind that smile, something was broken. The trust was gone. And Daystar was not the same. The ministry that once looked like a shining light in Christian media was now surrounded by questions, doubt, suspicion. And through it all, Jonathan Lamb stood alone. He didn't try to destroy Daystar. He didn't attack his mother. He simply told the truth. He believed the donors deserved honesty. And many people now see him as the only one in that boardroom who acted with integrity. He showed that even when the cost is high, truth still matters. And what about the future? Daystar may keep broadcasting. Joni may continue leading. But the damage has been done. The curtain was pulled back. And now people are watching more closely. Asking harder questions. Refusing to stay silent. Because what happened with that $100,000 wasn't just a mistake. To some, it was theft. To others, it was spiritual abuse. But to everyone who gave with pure hearts, it was a wake-up call. A reminder that even in the church world, power can be misused. Money can be stolen. And the people who say they serve God sometimes serve themselves first. So now people are demanding better. They want truth. They want leaders they can trust. And most of all, they want to know that their faith, their prayers, and their donations are not being used for personal gain. Because faith should never be for sale. Not for $100,000. Not for anything.